Welcome to Tuesday Talks at Cure Studios. My name is Seema Kumar, and today we're honored to have two remarkable guests joining us here in the Cure studio. We have Dr. Grant Mitchell and also David Fajgenbaum, who will join us via Zoom from his office at the University of Pennsylvania. Now, I've had the pleasure of getting to know these two men over the past few months as they are founders of an exciting new startup organization that's revolutionizing treatments and cures using AI. They were also one of the winners of our first ever Cure Xchange challenge, Health AI for Good. And they've already taken up residency right here in the Cure campus. Together, they co-founded an organization called Every Cure. It's a non-for-profit dedicated to unlocking the full potential of every existing medicine to treat every possible disease. Isn't that awesome? Since winning our Xchange challenge, Every Cure has received $48.3 million from ARPA-H to develop and fast-track their AI-driven platform to revolutionize the future of drug development by repurposing where they were honored with this incredible honor on Rare Disease Day at the White House. And they have been featured on everything from the Wall Street Journal to Good Morning America. Welcome to Tuesday Talks.
Thank you, Seema. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Good to see you, Grant. And hi, David. How are you? There is so much to discuss. We're going to dive right in and let's get into it. I wanted to go first to David, and David's sort of life event, a significant thing that happened to David, really was the catalyst for this organization. In 2010, David, you were a third-year medical student. You were diagnosed with Castleman's disease, which is a rare disease that involves enlarged lymph nodes and a broad range of inflammatory symptoms and laboratory abnormalities. So you were determined to chase after your cure. You want to beat the odds, which you have done. And after facing a near-death experience 5 times, you were initiating an effort to find treatments, not only for yourself, but others with this disease. So can you tell us a little bit more about this Herculean effort and how this led to the formation of Every Cure?
Sure. Well, thanks so much for sharing those kind words, Seema. I knew that when I was so sick that I didn't have $1 billion in 10 years to try to find and create a new drug from scratch. If I wanted any chance of surviving, I knew that I would need to figure out what was going wrong with my disease, which is called Castleman disease, what was going wrong with me, and what already FDA-approved drugs were already available at my local CVS that maybe I could try to repurpose. So that became the mission that I was on, and I did experiments on my own blood samples. I did experiments on my own lymph node tissue, and I eventually uncovered that a drug that had been around for decades called sirolimus is approved for organ transplant rejection, but had never even been thought about for Castleman disease. I thought that maybe it could work for my disease, and I began testing it on myself, and this past January marked 10 years that I've been in remission. So Seema, you can imagine, I'm literally alive because of an existing drug. So of course, I want to do everything I possibly can to make sure that other patients out there that are suffering from diseases could potentially be treated with existing drugs actually can benefit from those drugs. So in the last 10 years, I launched a center at Penn where we've done this another 17 times. And then a couple of years ago, launched Every Cure to basically say we want to utilize the power of artificial intelligence to match every FDA-approved drug to every single disease that it could possibly treat.
Wow, that's just a remarkable story, right? And so it must have made you think, right? And that's probably what the genesis of Every Cure is all about. So if there is already existing drugs that are indicated for a specific condition, potentially they could be used in other condition and could work, right? And so that's how Every Cure was born. Now, you compared about a month ago Every Cure to something like Netflix, right? Just as Netflix uses AI to suggest shows you might like, you're applying AI to identify potential treatments for diseases that have, no cures at the moment. Can you explain in detail how this works? How many drugs are there today that are in the marketplace, FDA approved, like Ozempic, for example, that have been repurposed for use in weight loss, potentially even Parkinson's disease?
That's right. So there are about 3,000 FDA-approved drugs, and there are about 22,000 human diseases. So theoretically, if you tried every drug for every disease, you'd have 66 million possibilities. And what we know already is that drugs can be utilized to treat multiple diseases. That's because many diseases share the same underlying problem. A disease like Castleman's and a disease like COVID both have problems of too much IL-6, so they can be treated with an IL-6 inhibitor. And in addition to that, many drugs can actually hit two different targets or multiple targets. And so when you combine the fact that drugs can hit multiple things in the body, and multiple of these targets can actually be important in the same diseases, there's this incredible potential to do drug repurposing at scale. And we are so excited to be able to utilize the power of artificial intelligence. You mentioned Netflix. And so Netflix utilizes a random forest model to basically understand what's the pattern of shows that you like. And then it asks, what is the pattern of shows that maybe you haven't seen, and tries to make a match between your profile and the profile of TV shows that you haven't watched. And at least for me and my family, Netflix is really, really good at predicting what show we might want to watch. And so we utilize an identical approach, utilizing random forest model, to come up with a profile for every given drug and every single disease. And we're looking for patterns between drugs and diseases that can make us say, I think this drug could actually be useful for this disease.
Yeah, and I mean, it wouldn't be possible to do it without AI, right? Because, the permutations and combinations that you could come up with are just like massive for, any single individual or teams of individuals to actually work on. And so this is really, a new frontier, as we were talking about. Grant, your business model, right? You're a non-for-profit, and we all know what the pharma traditional model is, biotech traditional model is, right? It's for-profit, you're focused on IP. But this is very different, a non-for-profit model. So talk to me about how you go about, making a business out of it, and how are you currently working with VCs, to enhance technology, which obviously can save millions of people.
After our experience, David and I don't even know this, were roommates in medical school and in business school, so was with him when he first got sick. At one point, literally hugged him goodbye, didn't think he was going to live any longer, but of course he survived. And that experience showed us that, in finding this cure for him, that there are these drugs that are sitting on the pharmacy shelf that are not fully utilized to treat every disease that they possibly can. And so we thought for a long time that maybe there is a business here. Maybe we could repeat the efforts and the organizational structures we built around Castleman disease to go search for cures in other diseases. But it just became evident to us that this was actually not the VC model of investment. Mm-hmm. The time frames and the uncertainty and the risk was too large. And so it became evident that this is actually better suited as a nonprofit. And it is suited that way because, one, we're trying to build the world's best AI platform to make these predictions. And to do that, we need the best data set. And we need to be a collaborative, non-competitive organization that can work well with others, that can bring in other people's data that they don't normally share. And then we use these predictions to go after drugs and populations that are typically neglected. So drugs that are already generic. 80% of drugs that of those 3,000 drugs that David is talking about are generic, and there's no opportunity to capture IP there. And there are over 10,000 diseases that are rare that are typically not focused on by the pharmaceutical industry. So when you bring together all these elements around the risk, the timelines, the data that you need, the drugs you want to repurpose, the diseases you want to go after, it really lends itself much more to a charitable model. And that doesn't mean we're a large, slow-moving charity. We're a fast-growing tech company that's building AI platforms and has a lot of high-performing employees that come from technology companies, consulting organizations, top research foundations. So it just means that we can go after opportunities that focus purely on patient impact as opposed to profit.
So how do you measure success then? And where do you get your funding from? And how do you sort of still create a sustainable business model? Because you have many, many, many drugs to get through and many, many, many diseases to cure.
Mm-hmm. Well, the funding model, we've been really lucky to find philanthropy that is focused on solving problems on a systems level. Mm-hmm. A lot of philanthropies out there are focused on one disease at a time. We're looking across all drugs and all diseases all at once and letting the data lead us towards the highest impact opportunities for patients. So the model is always work backwards from patient impact, and that's what guides us. And so major philanthropy has been good for us, and also government agreements with ARPA-H. So it's a new federal agency launched by the Biden administration, and they've got around $3 billion to give away to technology that is revolutionizing the way that pharmaceutical drugs are researched and the care is delivered. And so between those two arms, between the philanthropy and between the government contract to build products that we're going to give to the research community and give to patients, to all the data, all the research, all the insights, that's all going to be freely available for everyone to have.
That's just great. I mean, it's wonderful to have companies like you, organizations like you, I should say, as part of the Cure ecosystem. And now you've been here for a couple months now. What opportunities have you been able to tap into already being here on our campus here at Cure? And what do you feel are the ecosystem's advantages and how they lend themselves to you as you build your AI platform?
It's been so wonderful to be here and to meet the other organizations that are taking residence here. We're already having conversations with multiple companies here around learning from their platforms and the data they're generating, potential data sharing agreements. There's wet lab space here to help us validate the findings that we generate computationally and validate them in vitro and even design potential clinical trials. There's also investment dollars that are here, and for the opportunities that we can't pursue, they're interested in looking at ways that they can commercialize products from some of our research. So just being in the mix of all this activity is really energizing and really beneficial to the organization.
That's great. And obviously you received the ARPA-H grant of 48 point whatever million dollars, right? Almost $50 million. What have you been able to do, and how will you be delivering your first sort of quote unquote success or deliverable to enhance your business?
Yeah, so it's actually a contract. It's not just a grant. It's a performance-based contract with the federal government, and the outputs of that contract are to build this database that we can provide to the research community, construct that database as a biomedical knowledge graph, and that's crucial to the artificial intelligence approach that we're taking, and then actually make that ranking that David was mentioning: 3,000 drugs, 22,000 diseases, 66 million possibilities, a ranking of every possible combination, and normalized score of 0 to 1 that tells us where are the biggest opportunities here to impact patients. We release that as part of the contract to the public, and then we zoom in on the very highest possible patient impact opportunities, and we select the top ones to actually take into clinical trials and bring to patients.
That's great. That's really wonderful. Now, David, if we still have you with us, David, how do you feel about all this, right? Like, how are you doing? And then how do you feel about the prospects of, saving so many other potential lives, just like you were able to save your own?
Yeah, it's truly such a dream. Grant mentioned that we were roommates in medical school and business school, and he was by my side helping me to figure out this treatment that could save my life. And we've been thinking about this for the last 10 years, and truly dreaming of the idea that we could scale the work that we were doing. So I've been busy working in my computational and wet lab at the University of Pennsylvania, where I mentioned earlier. We've repurposed a number of additional drugs, but boy, is it hard to go one drug, one disease at a time. I'm so proud of my team here at Penn, and to be able to achieve the repurposing successes and help literally thousands of patients around the world. That has been a dream come true. But then the idea that we can utilize artificial intelligence to scale from this world we're in right now, where we can help thousands of people, to the potential to help millions of people. I think it's beyond my wildest dreams, is frankly the way to describe it. And we're so excited about the initial results we've gotten so far. We ran the very first version of the platform along with a collaborator at Penn State named David Fajgenbaum last March, and amazingly, the first set of results have already been actionable. In fact, a drug that was the top hit for Castleman disease, a drug called adalimumab. It's actually a drug that we used last year to save a patient's life that was getting ready to go into hospice. Recently, we treated a patient with a rare disease called POEM syndrome with a combination of chemotherapies that scored very highly in our algorithm based on the similarities between POEMs and a cancer called myeloma. So the algorithm is already beginning to show this incredible promise. And we are just so excited to be able to invest the time, the effort, the energy to be in the right location at the Cure ecosystem to be able to take this really promising, early progress and turn it into permanent cures for many, many patients.
That's great. And, you've both been very lucky, first of all, in the science that you've been doing, in the collaboration you have, and, in sort of living your purpose and making your dreams come true. But you've also been very good at raising money, receiving grants, contracts. What advice do you have for other entrepreneurs who are presenting their ideas to VCs?
Well, I'm laughing a little bit, Seema, because I guess very, very good is relative. And the reason I say that is that I think Grant and I met with over 300 potential funders before we raised our first $1 million. So, betting a 0.3% or 0.3% batting average isn't all that great. But I think that to your question around lessons is what do we share share with entrepreneurs? And that's that in our case, it took 300 meetings to get the first $1 million, and fundraising has really been exponential after raising those initial dollars. And so, we could have given up a lot of times over that year, and probably if we were a little bit more sane, I think we probably would have given up. But we are just, so committed to this, and we would have run through walls, and I think we probably did run through some walls over that year. This month actually marks 2 years since we decided to start the organization. And so a lot of hurdles have come up over the way. We've been able to get through them. So I think one is just be relentless. Two is build an amazing team. Have a partner like Grant Mitchell and Tracy Sikora to be your co-founders. That's what you need. So one, relentless. Two, have an amazing team. And three, do not lose focus of that mission. Just all day, every day, you got to be thinking about what you're working towards, and that relentless focus on what you're trying to achieve is going to help you to overcome things. And I guess the last thing I'd say, which is to that third point, is that I have the incredible privilege of being able to see patients on a daily basis who are alive thanks to a repurposed drug. So it's so real for me, Seema. It's not like this idea we can save lives with repurposed drugs. We can use AI to do it. I see it every day. And at the same time that I see people who are benefiting from drugs, I also see people who are not benefiting from drugs. And that sort of combination here of incredible unmet need with this incredible technology has created this relentless drive in our team, and we're gonna keep pushing with everything we got.
Wow, what a story, what drive, I mean, for the both of you. I mean, to not give up. I mean, were there moments, Grant, that you were like, this is not going to work?
I think
Let's
around
close up shop.
yeah, I think around the 299th no, I was starting to feel that way. But to David's point, there was a point back, when David was first sick with Castleman disease, and we said, well, gosh, surely they must be working on this. And we did a little research. We looked around the world, and there really wasn't they. There was not this like imaginary, factory in the sky where they're all tinkering away and just in the way that you think they should be around whatever disease, whatever problem you're looking at. And so we looked at each other and said, my God, there's no they there. Like, can we be they? And I think that there's that entrepreneurial moment for everyone looking to start a business that says, okay, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to take up this mantle, and I'm going to charge forward. And to Dave's other point around, having a clear vision, when you figure out exactly what you want to do, and you work back like we do, and we work backwards from patients, and we say, we believe that the current landscape of drugs are not fully utilized to treat every disease that they possibly can, and we're not going to stop until they are. And we keep saying that, and we keep refining that vision. The world sort of starts to align with your goal, and resources start to come in your path. As long as you are relentless, like we were, and I think the key to that is taking all those no's and refining it a little bit every step of the way, redirecting a little bit, incorporating the knowledge and the wisdom from the no's, discarding the ones that don't know what they're talking about. I mean, a lot of them did. And it really got us to where we are. And we're, as David said, just blessed to be in a position to help more patients now.
Yeah, never give up, and I think also finding that gap, the unmet need in the marketplace, and then realizing that value, I think is also important. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and for being here, part of our Cure ecosystem. Thank you, David and Grant. It's been a true honor. And thank you all to all of you for joining today's show. And for more information on our work here at Cure, go to wewillcure.com. See you all next week. Bye-bye.